Not every passion you have, not everything you want to do, not every interest you have has to be a side hustle or a full-time job. What's up, pals, and welcome back to another episode of The Passion Project. I'm your host, Hallee Smith, visual storyteller and creator on TikTok and YouTube. I hope that this podcast can inspire you to get out of your comfort zone and into your passions so that you can live a truly fulfilling life. And the best part about it is that we're on this journey together. So let's go. Hello, podcast beans. Welcome back. It is great to be talking to you again. Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to tell you guys something funny. It was a little bit of a haunting realization this morning, so in a joking way. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that my hair's in a bun, and I have these it's kind of natural that when you put your hair in a bun, you have these little wispies that come down on the side. But apparently, when I was in middle school, the thing was that these little wispies that come down on the side by your ears need to be thick and long. And so naturally, unless you have really damaged hair, it's just kind of like a few wispies that hang down. In middle school, I and many others would cut my hair. I would take a chunk of hair down by my ears and cut it. I found a picture recently, and it really was giving sideburns. So don't do that. I hope that's not a trend anymore for the middle schoolers. I don't know if middle schoolers listen to this. I think some of you guys are younger, so learn from my mistakes. A couple other updates before we get into today's episode. Number one, our very first, when I'm recording this, it's today, but by the time you guys listen, it was August 22nd, basically. Our very first bonus podcast episode was released on my Patreon, so if that's something that interests you, go check it out over on Patreon. It's linked in the show notes, or it's just patreon.com/Hallee. And if you want to support non-monetarily, definitely give this podcast a review. That helps a ton. And share it on social media. Share it with somebody who think it might help, or somebody who you think might like to listen. Next thing, if you don't know, I have actually a monthly newsletter that I send out. This newsletter is kind of a culmination of all the things I do: podcast, Patreon, YouTube videos, Q&As, etc. There's a lot of smoothie recipes in there, but it's a really fun newsletter. I love doing it. We throw in some motivation. I throw in some shout outs in there. So if you want to subscribe to that, click the link in the show notes and you can subscribe to the email list. It's only one email a month as of now. So this newsletter, it's not going to bomb your inbox. So definitely subscribe if you're interested. It's free, no cost at all. And last but not least, I'm going to be hosting monthly Q&A sessions over on YouTube. If you came from YouTube, you probably already know that. And not on the podcast channel. This will be on my main YouTube channel. So these monthly Q&As, you can actually submit your questions ahead of time. Over on Instagram, I have a story highlight on my profile where you can submit your questions ahead of time. If you don't have Instagram, I'm working on figuring out something for those of you. But for now, jump on over to Instagram, submit your questions if you're going to attend those monthly Q&As. And I'll hope to see you there. And so now, diving into today's episode, we're going to be talking about the nuances of 3 different things that are talked about a lot. Number 1, a side hustle. Number 2, your full-time job. And number 3, a hobby. What's the difference? What do they mean? How can you use it to leverage your interests, to maintain your creative energy, and to do things that fulfill you? Your passion project. Which of these is your passion project? Now, the first thing I want to address that I think is often forgotten, thanks to hustle culture, is that not every passion you have, not everything you want to do, not every interest you have has to be a side hustle or a full-time job. Sometimes there's just doing things for the mere fact that it fulfills you and you enjoy doing it. Now, this is not to take taking hits at hustle culture. I think that obviously, like anything, hustle culture can be toxic if it's taken too far. I'm very motivated by a lot of the concepts in hustle culture, but when it's taken to the extreme, it teaches us that there's always more and we never have enough. Notions like sleep is for the weak, Work 100 plus hours a week or you're not dedicated. Get out there and work until you cannot work anymore. I don't know what that just was. I think I really got in the zone, pretended I was doing some sort of ad. But, that's kind of what hustle culture says when it gets too far and it starts to become a little bit toxic. And it leads you to believe that you got to make money off of everything you're doing, off of every passion, everything that you love. And so hustle culture can be a great motivator. Get up, get to work, be efficient, follow these steps, optimize your day, figure out your energy when you operate the best, when you operate, maybe not so good during the day. There's a lot of good things within hustle culture, but you have to take it with a grain of salt because a lot of these notions making you feel like you're never enough, always having to be go, 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 not valuing flow, taking your time, manifestation. These are all things that stifle creativity if they're not in check. So you don't have to be making money. You don't have to be quote unquote capitalizing off of every passion you have, off of every interest that you want to explore. Now, obviously, this podcast called The Passion Project. So I want you guys to go after your passions. But how are you going after your passions? This is the distinction we're going to make today. Let's jump into the 3 definitions. Number 1, full-time job. Pretty straightforward. Full-time job, it typically implies a set work for the week, usually with 8-hour days, 40-hour weeks. That's obviously referring to corporate. If you're a business owner or a content creator like me, I feel like I'm working 24/7 sometimes because it is a little bit hard to distinguish between the two. But basically, it's where your full-time income is coming from, the thing that allows you to be stable and, track your expenses, etc. Everything that comes with stability and having an income. Now, the second thing, side hustle. The definition, standard definition, is a piece of work or a job that you get paid for doing in addition to doing your main job. So you do it on the side. It's a supplemental income. You don't necessarily need that money. It's a bonus. And it's not what you're doing full time, so you're dedicating hours off of your main job to do your side hustle. And then number 3, the most often forgot one and undervalued is a hobby, which is an activity done regularly in one's highlight leisure time. So activity done regularly in one's leisure time for pleasure. Leisure time is not a time when you're trying to make money. It's a time when you're just enjoying yourself. Jumping back to the hustle culture discussion, it kind of teaches you that you need to optimize everything. You always have to be gaining. Well, in reality, doing a hobby, you're not necessarily making money. Maybe you're even losing money because you're spending money on doing it. Say your hobby is painting. You're buying all these supplies to paint. You're not selling your paintings, so technically you're quote unquote losing money. However, if it's a hobby, if it's the thing you're dedicating your free time to, that's okay. You don't have to be always making a profit off of your passions. You can, and a lot of times it works really well, but you don't have to, and don't forget that. Me, for example, I love going salsa dancing, fitness, working out. I work out, it's just a part of my life. I grew up an athlete. I danced for 10 years when I was younger. It's just what I do. Now, I don't show it a lot on my platforms because I have intentionally kept it as a hobby. Yeah, I've shown it here and there, but because, I've been doing it my whole life, starting going salsa dancing and starting dancing again, I still have, I've still got it, right? Like I'm pretty good at, at dancing, at fitness, growing up an athlete. And so a lot of times people will be like, Hallee, why don't you, capitalize off this? Why don't you do, oh my gosh, you should make salsa dancing videos. You should make fitness videos. But to me, at least for now, it would change the dynamic of the activity. I like to dance right now because it gives me personal fulfillment. I don't need to be necessarily showing off to people or showing people. It fills a need within me, and I don't know what it is, but like every time after I dance, I am so amped, I'm excited, I'm happy, and I'm in a great mood. It really just fills, an energy that needs fulfilled inside me. I love dancing. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel good. And I'm not necessarily capitalizing off of it, and that's okay monetarily. Obviously, personally, happiness-wise, mentally, yeah, I'm capitalizing off of that. So we need to take that into consideration. Take that value, that personalized value, into consideration. Most content creators, me included, started posting videos for fun, as a hobby, not necessarily as something they're going to do full time. And so this is an instance where the hobby transitions into a side hustle, which can then, of course, also transition into a full-time job. It'll transition to a side hustle when you figure out how you can make money off of it. This is great. The passion's going to drive you. They give you extra cash flow. But I do think that sometimes side hustles are overly romanticized. This is not to discourage you from doing your side hustle. Do it 100%. But just know it is work. And most of the time it starts as a creative outlet, and then it transitions into something where you have to be putting more work into it. You have to start being more strategic, because then you're trying to make money off of it. You're not just doing it for leisure. A lot of times when people do start as a hobby, though, this being in this state of flow and not stressing about having to make money off of it is what leads to people making money off of it. I hope that makes sense, but it's something I've noticed, and I say noticed, not recognize or experienced, because I actually did everything kind of the opposite of what most people do. I never went into corporate America. Of course, I had a bunch of internships that gave me a taste of it, but I never got that full-time corporate job after I graduated college. I was freelancing, and so you could say I kind of jumped in with both feet right off the bat. You can do that. If you think that that's what you need to make yourself commit to this project, this side hustle, and make it full time. However, make sure you have a fallback plan, and make sure you know what you're signing yourself up for, because it's a lot of work trying to stay passionate about something and make it still be fun, still something you enjoy doing, and also trying to balance how can I make money off of this and also not be stressed about it. So jumping in with both feet, always an option. But most people, it happens kind of gradually over time as the hobby transitions to a side hustle, and the side hustle transitions into being an opportunity to work full time. So now I want to talk a little bit about how maybe a full-time job could fund your hobby or your side hustle even. So like we talked before, full-time job, you're working 40 hours a week, 40 plus hours. It's typically a corporate job. Maybe it's your business, or maybe you do something like bartending, waitressing, etc. By the way, that's always been my fallback plan, in case you guys were wondering, is to take a bartending or waitressing job part-time. But that's just to show you guys that have a backup plan. There always is a backup plan, and there's always a way to figure it out. So back on topic. Typically, these full-time jobs, they're very stable. You know how much you're going to get. And so you can allocate a certain amount of the money coming from your full-time job to this hobby or to this side hustle. And you can set, an X amount of time. So maybe 6 months. I'm going to do this for 6 months. If I don't start making money off of it, or if I don't figure out a way to start making money off of it, we'll reevaluate there. You can set a standard for how long you want to commit to something on the side, but you have this full-time job. So basically, this full-time job allows you the flexibility to test things on the side. It takes away that uncertainty of, oh my gosh, if I don't start making money off of my passion project or my hobby right away, I'm going to be okay because I have this steady flow of income to fall back on. So that's one of the great things about a full-time job, but you do have to hustle if you're doing a side hustle. Side hustle, get it? It's all built in, right? Side hustle, because you're going to be working extra 40 hours a week on that full-time job, and then you're working on top of that to do that side hustle. It's a grind. Hence why hustle culture has become so popular and so influential. But like I said, Don't forget to have that balance. So now let's talk a little bit about burnout. Burnout is essentially where you're done. You've pushed yourself way too hard and you no longer want to be doing what you're doing because you've hit kind of a point of no return. Burnout is how and why people lose their passions for things. I've had a couple of times where I have hit a roadblock, I guess you call it, of burnout. And it's not fun. You feel it physically, like your physical health. Like I got actually sick. I was having inflammation. It can take a toll on you more than just mentally. So don't let burnout kill your passion. It's possible to turn your passion into a full-time job or a side hustle and not kill the passion. I was talking earlier about how dancing for me, if I were to turn it into a full-time job, if I were to have to try to, make money, get shows, whatever it may be, or dance on social media to make a living, it would change the whole dynamic of what I'm doing. It's not to say that that would kill my passion for it, but I know that it would change the dynamic, and for that, I don't want to go there. Now, how do we have a side hustle that is your passion without killing it? It is to avoid burnout, like I just said. And to also recognize that it will change your relationship with that passion. It's inevitable, and maybe it's different for other people, but I'm speaking from my experience. Let me talk about, for example, how I make videos. That is what I'm most passionate about, making videos. And now that is what I do full time. I rely on it for my income. I rely on it for so much. Did it kill my passion? No. I've hit points of burnout, but I worked my way back up, and it's almost like when you get in a fight with someone and you have to repair your relationship with them. I had to repair my relationship to my passion for video. When I hit this point of burnout, I did not want to make videos. I hated it. I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't want to edit them. And it took me months to bounce back from this. I stayed committed, and I repaired this relationship with, creating videos because I wanted to get that passion back. I wanted to find inside of me again that feeling I would get when I would make a video and I would see the final product, show it to people, how exciting it would be. And I have been able to recover that. So, number one, if you can avoid getting to burnout, don't let yourself get there. Give yourself breaks, self-care time. Dedicate, do other passions on the side, like have these other hobbies. Balance your hobbies with your full-time job so that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. This is great. The multi-passionate people probably love this. But know that when you're committing to monetizing that thing you're passionate about, it will change your relationship with it. For me, videos, yes, I'm still passionate about them, but I think of them as work. I'm not just I still for fun will go make a video, right? But it's classified in my head as work, and I need to take breaks from work. So I need to take breaks. I need to take breaks from the thing that I'm passionate about. And that's why I have these other hobbies that I don't have to put that pressure of turning it into a video. I don't have to put that pressure on myself. So just find balance. Use these 3 different things to find a balance of the things you're interested in. And for you multi-passionate people listening, all y'all are just like me. Use these different classifications as a way to soothe your need for doing 20 things. Because realistically, you cannot do everything. We had a whole episode on this. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. Give yourself a hobby or an outlet or a place where, as a person, you know that you're not one thing. You're doing multiple things. And a reminder that the compound effect is real. The more you do something, the better you're going to be at it. So it's just reality that if you do 10 different things, you're only going to be like this good at the 10 different things, as opposed to if you did like 3 things, you're going to be like this good. If you're watching, you see me like motioning my hands and trying to also hold the microphone. But you get it. And if you want to read the compound effect, I think I mentioned this in my last episode, but I linked an Amazon storefront where all the books I talk about on my podcast, if you want to give them a read, you can buy them there on, I think there's Audible versions and the physical books. So check that out if you want to read some of the things I'm talking about. That one is the compound effect. And so I'm going to leave you guys with some action steps. Yay. Someone actually responded. I was really happy about this. Someone emailed me and told me they liked the action steps. So I'm really happy to hear that. And here's what we're going to do today. So do this now or do this later. But take out your journal. Take it out. If you're not doing it now, sit it out so you don't forget. Make a note, whatever you need to do. Take out your journal and answer these 5 prompt questions. Number 1, this has to do with your passion. What do you love doing? Write down, right? What do I love doing? And think about it for a second. Write down every single thing that comes to your head, everything. If it's a lot, great. If it's only a few things, that's fine too, because like I said, this podcast is for multi-passionate people, but also just passionate people in general. So maybe you don't know what that thing is yet that you want to do. So just write everything that comes to mind and don't feel bad if it's only a few things. That might actually put you in a really good position. Number 2, what can make me money that you wouldn't mind doing? So write down what can I do to make money that I wouldn't mind doing? Because there's infinite amount of things you can do to make money, but you're not going to want to do all those things. And again, this is the money piece. So don't think too much about being passionate about it. Think more so, how can I make money what are things I can make money on that I wouldn't mind doing? So write those all down. Again, brain dump anything that comes to mind. Number 3, how do you currently make money? What is your full-time job? What are your side hustles? Take account for it. What are the ways in your life you are making money? Number 4, what do I want to be known for? This is your image. What do people think of when they think of you? Do they think of your job? Do they think of maybe this hobby you might have? Do they think of a side hustle? Do they think of what you're most talented at? Write down anything and everything that you would want to be known for. And be a little bit more selective here and thinking that what do you really want to be known for, right? What do you want people to think of when they think of you? And number 5, what do you love doing but could care less if other people knew about it? These are the hobbies. So this is kind of the opposite of the question before. And now what you're going to do, now that you have everything written out, is you're going to play some mix and match. Draw arrows, draw lines, whatever you need to do. How do these things connect? What passion can you make money on? Or what passion can you turn into a hobby? Once it's all written down, you'll be able to see it. Mix and match these things. I've done this many times before, so it works. And it'll help you to alleviate some of that stress, and it'll help you to look at the different areas that maybe you could start a side hustle, or maybe you could take this to a full-time job, or maybe it's just a hobby. So at the end, maybe you just needed to get it out of your brain, or maybe it will give you the greatest idea for a new project, side hustle, or passion project that you've ever had. What I want you guys to do is I want you to send in what you came up with. Email me, halleespassionproject@gmail.com. I will read your emails. Email me what you came up with in this exercise. Did you have a realization? Did you figure out maybe a new hobby you want to go after? Let me know. And I'd love to hear, and maybe even I'll share it on a future episode. And don't forget, before we go, to check out Patreon for the bonus episodes. These episodes won't be released anywhere else. And a lot of times I go more in depth on the topics we've touched on here, and I give you kind of more of a behind the scenes look at what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, and kind of my storylines. The last one was about how I started the Passion Project podcast. I know I talked about that a little bit in the first episode, I believe, but in this bonus episode on Patreon, I go way more in depth. I tell you guys all the details on how I did it, what inspired me, what got me to where I am today with this podcast. So check that out if you're interested. And there's also a chat community amongst other perks on Patreon. Or, like I said earlier, join our monthly newsletter. It's free. And if you want to contribute non-monetarily, you haven't yet, give us a rating. It'd be super helpful. I would appreciate it more than you know. And share it on social media if you think it could help somebody. So that is all for today. Thank you guys for being here. I will talk to you and see you in the next episode. Peace out, pals.